How's it going, everybody? I wanted to give you guys a little update on the magnet from JW here. I think this thing is just such an awesome little flipper, and I've really been enjoying it. It is completely handmade. Completely handmade except for some water jet cutting for the handles for the initial shape, but then after that they're rounded by hand and the blade is all made by hand. And so very, very beautiful, very pretty knife, especially for the price. I believe it was like under $700, maybe around $650, which is crazy for a fully, handmade knife. So yeah, this is a very, very cool piece of work, and I really like it a lot. I wanted to talk a bit today about like how my collection has been and like living with all of these different knives and how that has affected me as a flipper. 'Cause like, I don't know. My journey as a flipper has been very strange, to say the least. I started out with almost nothing, and I had like clones when I got started and all sorts of weird stuff. And then like over time, I've grown and grown, and then I got the YouTube channel, and that has been a terrible excuse to have so many Balisongs. And then that has led into me getting more and more expensive Balisongs, and like, I don't know, I think it's interesting to consider, like, what does that do to my perception of Balisongs as a whole, and how does that affect the way that I'm actually, like, dealing with them, right? I don't know, I think it's interesting, especially with my job as a reviewer, because I think it's a double-edged sword, right? If I have experience with a ton of Balisongs that are all very nice and also shitty ones, then, like, I get a pretty good perspective on what all Balisongs are like, and maybe that makes me a better reviewer because I'm able to kind of compare many different things at the same time. But at the same time, also, I feel like I've got so many different things clouding my head and clouding my judgment that it kind of makes it difficult to pinpoint sometimes what I'm trying to talk about. And I've got so many different Balisongs clamoring around in my head that I'm like, I don't know what to say sometimes. Like, I feel like it is a double-edged sword because you get confused and like you're talking about so much happening instead of just talking about like the thing that you're supposed to be talking about. I don't know. But yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting, and I think that it's been very interesting as well, going from where I was with a lot of cheaper Balisongs and kind of trying them out and starting with clones and getting to experience all of that stuff, and then moving on and getting stuff like the Crackerakin and having that experience, and then getting stuff after that and having my experience with like the really expensive knives like my Tsunami and my Alien and my Serif and all that stuff. It's very interesting to me. And a lot of the knives that I'm spending a lot of my time with now are on the more expensive side, in terms of the ones that I'm actually picking up on a daily basis to flip, the ones that I'm actually spending most of my time with. And I think that's kind of interesting because I don't know if they're necessarily better, or if I just have an unconscious bias to want to pick up the more expensive thing that I spent my hard-earned cash on and flip it, right? Because I have a feeling that it is primarily that bias, right? I have a feeling that it is mostly, oh, I spent a lot of money on this thing and I need to get my value out of it, because that is a fallacy that many people fall into. You spend more money on an item and you care more about it. And so that might be why I'm flipping them more. But then the other half of that coin is it that they actually just flip better? And like, in terms of the Serif and the Tsunami, I genuinely believe they're two of the best flipping Balisongs on the market right now. I think that they both bring something incredibly interesting to the table. And weirdly enough, they both bring it in very diametrically opposed fashions. That being that the Tsunami is really a no-holds-barred, all out, like, best thing that Squid Industries could possibly make Balisong. It has so much going for it and so much detail put into every millimeter on its surface, from the finishes on the inside to the finishes on the outside. The way that everything is made and created inside of this Balisong is just so specific. And the Serif is more of a utilitarian, where it still is a no-holds-barred, like, really, really beautiful Balisong, but it takes some of the things between these two, right? You have On this one, I would say that you have some compromises for the sake of aesthetic and feel. And what I mean by that is that, like, instead of finding different solutions to do certain things with this Balisong, they used more difficult solutions to achieve a better aesthetic or a better feel in the hand. So when it comes to like the way the weight system is done in this Balisong, you'll notice the handles aren't nearly as big as the serif on the end. And the reason for that is partially due to the weight system. The weight system inside of the Tsunami is literally just these little pins that are like machined into these grooves. The problem is that those pins are extremely, extremely tight tolerance. So much so that they don't make any sort of sound when, you know, the knife is being used. But that also means that you have to mill in these holes that are extremely tight tolerance and make sure that, like, all the little pieces are super tight tolerance and blah, blah, blah. Whereas on the serif, there's a relatively large pocket in there that holds a brass weight, and there is a little plastic dampener that just keeps it from vibrating. And that means that your tolerances don't need to be nearly as tight because you're just going to be squeezing the whole thing together at the end and making it feel nice and perfect. And so, you know, there's a couple things that they kind of did with the Tsunami that made it, I don't know, more aesthetically pleasing and kind of better to flip, but they kind of take away from the functionality. Similarly, I think the serif has these metal, well, it's all metal, but these are specifically stainless steel hardware across the entire thing, whereas the Tsunami has titanium hardware. And I think the titanium hardware looks very pretty, especially when you have, like, mine is silver, obviously, but when you have, like, a silver Tsunami and then blue hardware or whatever, I think that looks great. The only problem is that titanium hardware isn't the best for Balisongs because it's pretty easy to strip and it's not as secure in a number of ways. So, I don't know. I think it's interesting because it's small details like this that I've kind of learned over my time of reviewing Balisongs and, like, trying to figure out more and more authentic ways to talk about them, right? And I think it's also interesting because it's very reflective of my journey as a person flipping Balisongs, right? Because I got into this community a very long time ago. I've been flipping Balisongs since, like, 2011, in terms of, like, when I literally first started, so that's more than 10 years ago now. And I really started taking it seriously in, like, 2014, and then after that point, that's when I started building my collection and going to Blade Show and all sorts of stuff like that. And so I've been doing Balisongs outside of YouTube for an extremely long period of time, and it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and that's why I'm able to make the YouTube videos that I do, is because I've been, you know, around Balisongs for such a long time, and I've seen the community change and grow and flourish and stuff like that. And so it's very important to me, the way the Balisong community is and my interactions with it and stuff like that, and making sure that those are genuine. And yeah, so it's just something that's been on my mind lately, is like, is it a good thing that I have so many Balisongs and so much experience, or is it a hindrance because it keeps me out of the realm of, like, a beginner's mindset? And that was, you know, the whole point of having Brandon as a voice on the channel too, is that he still at this point is within the beginner's mindset, but even now a lot less so, because he has a relatively large Balisong collection and he owns some very nice Balisongs. He might be a beginner flipper, but his actual, like, experience in terms of how the Balisong community works is very much skewed by the fact that we are YouTubers. I think something that's interesting is I want to make another video that's like how to get into Balisongs, right? Because our original video, while it's very good, is kind of outdated at this point because there's problems with the Balisong sale hashtag on Instagram. The Balisong community on Instagram isn't as strong as it once was. There's a lot of weird stuff going on there. And so some of the advice that I gave in that video just isn't necessarily accurate anymore. And that sucks, but that's also just, you know, how the world works. There's change over time, and that's just part of it. But I don't know, for me, I realized I need to do a lot of research before we can actually create another how to get into Balisongs video. And the reason for that is because I've become relatively disconnected from how getting into Balisongs works in the community, right? Like at that time, I was pretty like new to YouTube, and so I was pretty normal in the community in terms of the way that I interacted with the community and the way that I interacted with acquiring Balisongs. Nowadays, I am not, and that's just the truth of it. I have so many people messaging me on Instagram on a regular basis that I literally can't keep up with it. I have the same problem on Discord and my email and stuff like that. I just have so many messages pouring in all the time that I can't check them and I can't keep up with them. And so it's hard for me to keep an ear on the community as to what's actually going on at any given point. I don't have the time to be checking Reddit or Instagram on a regular basis because I'm usually working on videos like this, or I'm editing, or I'm doing all sorts of stuff that's related to actually producing the content that we do. On top of that, the way that I acquire Balisongs nowadays is very rarely through using the Balisong sale hashtag on Instagram. Usually the way that I get a Balisong is, well, if I do use the hashtag Balisong sale, it's usually because someone told me about it. For instance, this Balisong right here, I did get it off of the Balisong sale hashtag, but the way that I acquired it was literally because one of my friends said, oh, hey, there's a black and orange freaking cracker-rackin' on Balisong sale. You should grab that. And I was like, yes, I should. And then I went and I bought it. And like, you know, that's great, but that's not a normal experience. You know, if that's your only experience with the Balisong sale hashtag. Other than that, a lot of the way that I've been getting my Balisongs is either directly from producers because they're sending them to me, you know, or I'm like buying them directly off of their website in a drop, the way that I did with the Bite Blades Titan. You know, so it's like I've been having, I think, a much more normal consumer experience than most people do, whereas like I'm getting them off of websites or I'm getting them directly from manufacturers, whereas most people need to get them secondhand still. That's just kind of how it works. And so I need to do more research before I'm really going to be able to you know, make a proper getting into Balisongs video again. So I'm gonna, one idea that we had was to talk to people in the community. So that's probably what we're gonna do. I'm gonna talk to people in my Discord server. I'm gonna talk to people across the community and just get feedback and ideas and just what people's experiences have been in terms of getting into Balisongs and learning about all that stuff and whatnot. Because I think it's important for the video to be as accurate as possible and not just based on conjecture of my own life, because at this point that wouldn't be very helpful for a lot of people. So yeah, that's what's been on my mind a bit. I know this was kind of a long, rambly one that I didn't talk about anything in specific, but I also talked about a lot of things. So thank you guys for watching. I've very much been enjoying the various Balisongs that I do have. I'm very excited about the Vulp and its existence. I think that's cool. And also the cases. This is Case Delta. This is the one that I've been using the most personally. I think that it just has just enough space for me to take like whatever core pieces of my collection I happen to want with me. And it's small enough that I can kind of lug it anywhere and not worry about it. When I'm traveling, this is what I throw in my suitcase. And obviously if I'm walking to the park, this is what I bring with me. So yeah, it's just been interesting. But yeah, there's been a lot going on. I feel very blessed. I feel weirdly kind of disconnected from the community at the same time. Like, am I a boomer? Am I out of touch with the kids nowadays? I don't know. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you have any advice for me, please leave it in the comments. I don't know what advice I'm looking for, but if you feel like you have it, please tell me, because I do read all the comments on this channel, and I will for as long as I can until they explode too much. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I guess I'll see y'all later. Peace.